And good evening once again. This is your hick hillbilly host broadcasting from the Appalachian foothills. Just ready to talk about another fun movie here on the Wicked Wild podcast. We're heading to the sunless Arctic this week, and I've got opinions on this movie. But before we get into it, I want to talk to my co hosts. We'll start up with Mr. Pittsburgh. Or Pittsburgher, isn't that what we decided?
I hate
Isn't that
it.
what you
Every time you say it, I hate it more and more. I hate
That's a
it
good one,
more and
man.
more. Living the dream one day at a time.
Well, and I can't take any credit. You have your wife to thank for that little chestnut of
Oh, I know.
knowledge.
I just the worst. You know what I mean? Just like sometimes you meet people and you're like, you know what? They say something, just the worst.
Just write them off at that point.
With all the love in my heart, just the worst.
So I do have a question for you.
I have an answer.
Oh, cool. So as I'm watching this movie, one of the first frustrations I had is, you've got the hobo that shows up in town and they throw in jail. Why can't they get that guy some chapstick? I mean, why
You know
does the
what?
guy always have to show up with lizard lips?
You know what's weird? You know what's weird about movies like this? Uh, in a country town, unless that hobo is like saying weird city stuff, everyone's so nice to the hobos. Look what happened. You got Rambo treating him bad. Look what happened. This treating him bad. Like, that's not real. Everybody's cool with the hobo. Unless they live in a pea-smelling town that Jamie's family came from, where a bowling alley is in the underground mental institution. Those hobos you can't trust.
Touche.
Candy lady hobos, can't trust. It's just a wandering hobo, some chapped lips.
No, but he was saying weird stuff. We'll get there, but he was saying some weird stuff.
Listen,
He was
unless
definitely the soothsayer of this movie.
Listen, until he came, as long as he didn't come in there and go, I think men should moisturize. Nobody in the country cares. Nobody in the country cares. You go to a country, you say men should moisturize, they go, what is that devil stuff?
Well, and
Moisture.
As the Southern representative too, I have to take umbrage with the fact that this guy is closer to the North Pole than he is to any other city, and has a thick Alabama accent. I don't understand why the weirdo that shows up in town has to have this thick Southern drawl.
You know what I think it is, Dave? I think people are just against us old Southern boys.
That's right.
And our polite hospitality. That's what I think it is.
You sound weird. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You sound weird.
Wow.
News,
okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Hey, go back to your pea.
I'm aware
air,
of my
okay?
accent. Okay.
Go back to
I
your
own it.
pea-filled air.
I know what my accent is.
Why don't you have your 13th
okay?
birthday party in that bowling alley covered in pee and urine under the mental institution?
Wow.
How dare you? Hey, trucies.
I don't know. You got a little
Doesn't feel
harsh.
like it.
You got harsh there.
You went after you said we sounded weird, okay? I've never said you sounded weird.
But I do, and it's fine.
No, you have a distinguished and refined dialect. See how nice that was?
I sound like an ignorant hick, but that's okay.
No, you sound like a warm, molasses mouthed gentleman.
Ew, I think I prefer just hick.
Oh boy.
I'm making greeting cards with these things on them, I think.
You missed Valentine's. These would have been great Valentines to give out.
I feel like you would be turned to the
heartwarming.
police if you give these people Valentine's.
Dear molasses mouth.
Wow.
Yep, 911.
And then you heard there Miss Jamie up in New York, the island of Manhattan. How's it going, Jamie?
I wanted to say well, but you guys know what's going on, so it's like it's going.
At times, her body tries to kill her. She's fighting through there. Right now.
I forgot to tell you that, guys, that on top of my allergies that have attacked my head, I now have a pinched nerve in my back, so I can only move in certain directions. So that's where I am today.
Out. That's what's happening.
That ran out like a year ago when I hit that age. That's almost a year ago, not yet.
You don't think it's exposure, do you?
No, I don't.
Exposure to all that glitter? You breathe in the glitter particles. Yeah.
No.
Your blood is 60% glitter, just sparkle.
I'm just assuming it's that Yankee water she drinks.
Probably.
It's probably what's doing it.
Probably. There's gators in pipes, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And chuds and all kinds
of
Oh, yeah. So, Jamie, because you and I have pick up on similar things sometimes in movies, I assume this was something that stood out to you that we'll talk
no,
about
I'm
more.
afraid I didn't pick up on it. What?
But what is it about this young man who thinks it's okay to go to the diner without his grandma, leave her to be slaughtered by the vampires, and just show up at the diner and not even reference that he totally bounced on his own grandmother?
Wait, he bounced on her, or he went after she died?
I don't know. I just know that he's alive and she's not. He's an
I know that.
able-bodied
He did it. Yeah, we don't
15-year-old.
know.
She
We
was an
didn't-
80-year-old woman. And
We
he's not got a
no.
scratch on him. That's all I know.
No, my grandma, I'm carrying her out of there with me.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've got questions. I think there's some litigious conversation that needs to happen with the young man there. And then finally, we have John up in Detroit. I think is how they pronounce it up there, right? Detroit. Detroit, Michigan.
Well, I mean, you may pronounce it as Detroit. It's typically Detroit, but if you're from France, Detroit or Quebec.
Detroit. I think Detroit is a French word. Doesn't it mean trash town? Isn't that what
Probably.
What is going on tonight?
Everybody's gunning for the northern segment of the country today.
Hey, if you above the Mason-Dixon,
stay
up there. Stay up there.
Which you are, Eli.
No, temporarily, all right, man. I'm gonna make my way back down.
It's where you reside.
I'm gonna make my way. Listen, I threaten Mary every day. Okay, I'm like, well, let me rephrase that. I don't threaten her. I just tell her. I just tell her I'm one bad day away from us being like, for me just going to her and say, hey, I bought a cabin.
I'll meet you there.
You're coming or you're not. It's 40 miles from civilization. There's trees. Let's go.
Because people are the worst.
The worst.
Man. Yeah, there's an energy tonight. I don't know what is going on.
I don't know.
It's this movie, and I'm going to get into it.
Oh,
really?
really?
I'm actually afraid of this conversation about this movie.
I don't know. I'm kind of itching to hear this because I sense a lot of certain type of vibes going on, and I have certain feelings about this.
I may have Blair Witch level energy. But we'll get to it. But before I do, I don't want to step on my boy Eli's big news section where we have our new segment where he gives us the news that we need to know from the paranormal and UFO. So let's hear it for Eli and Wicked Whispers.
I tell you what, people, things are getting weird. And this is kind of a continuation from what broke in the news last week. Over the weekend, it's just been a doozy, right? So, everyone knows a couple weeks ago, we had the balloon, the Chinese weather balloon, spy balloon, depending on who you talk to, let it go across the U.S. and they shot down. Following that, 3 UFOs that they're classifying them as UFOs. 2 were in Canada. 1 was making its way to the States. They shot down over the weekend. Now, here's where the weird part comes in, right? You have some people in the government, some of these interviews are like, oh, listen, they're we know what they are. It's classified. We can't talk about it. It's nothing to worry about, right? But then you had a gentleman from the military who they interviewed, and they've also only let him do 1 interview. So what does that tell you, people? Pay attention. He said that they had no clue what it was, and they were not ready to rule out extraterrestrial life. He's a man from the military said that on the news, and people were like, wait, what? And then all of a sudden he wasn't doing interviews no more. And then the military is not giving interviews. They're letting like these spokesmen and people, and they're like, no, it's not. Like, we don't think you guys have anything to worry about. But meantime, I watched, I said, hold on, what was he referring to?
And where is he now?
Yeah, where did he go? Right? So like that's been going on. And the conspiracy people, this has got them shook to the core. If you guys want to see what a wasteland looks like, go to conspiracy TikTok. People are prepping. They're getting ready because they believe that was the sign.
Oh,
aliens are coming.
They're buying their buckets of heirloom seeds.
Oh, it is not good, people. Well, it depends. It seems like there's a couple camps. Some are like, oh, it's the Greys. They're here to help us. Some people are like, no, it's the Adonidans, which is a another race of aliens you don't even know about. They're the Donadans. So it's a race of aliens that basically want to come and take our resources and enslave us.
Body snatchers?
No, like they're just going to come and
Oh.
probably laser saw to death so that they can take our water.
I never did like Donny Osmond.
No, he's the worst. So that's what's happening in the news. Like the aliens are big, and like the crazy thing too, no one else on like that interview happened. I was at the gym when that interview. I was on my elliptical, and I'm going, and that popped up, and I about spit out like my tongue. Like I remember taking my headphones off because I was reading the captions. I was like, "Wait a tick, wait a tick, what did it say?" And like I looked up online, I was like, "Holy shit, it's happening, people!" And then all of a sudden, he's nowhere to be seen. Hey, I'm just saying, everybody, that's the news. Keep looking up.
How'd that elliptical session end, though?
I was looking fast. I kept thinking I'd start. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Then I'm like, what if there's an alien in this gym? And I go real fast, burned a ton of calories that day. And also partially because I shit myself twice. I'm like, aliens are coming. I automatically went protective mode.
Dropped 5 pounds immediately.
Yeah, it was crazy. I kept going to protective mode. I didn't know. You didn't know what's going on. Things are wiggity weird.
I mean, isn't that part of your own self-defense? You just like poop yourself?
Well, yeah, right. I don't think aliens would get me if I do that. So anybody can use that self-defense technique. It's tried and tested and true. Okay.
We left that talk in 2022. Yeah, we left this talk in 2022. This is we declared year of the wiener. You can make wiener jokes or wiener references.
All right. How about this?
No more feces.
Pooped and it was the shape of a wiener.
Nope.
Do we need a sign that we can just keep track of the days until the last poop joke?
Oh, that'd be like a poop counter.
Like a little kid. No.
Yeah. Like days since last poop reference. That'd be real. We need a t-shirt with that.
Like Jim.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we need a t-shirt with that poop counter.
No.
The Mole King poop counter, we'll call it.
I'll get right on that.
The Mole King poop counter.
Anyway.
We're going to get a not today mole person long before we get a poop counter t-shirt.
Well, that's not right. You can even have the steps for safety on the back of it. Stop, drop, and squat.
No. And
okay.
We're good.
Back to the review. So as we do here on the Wicked Wild podcast, we are going to open up by giving a short synopsis on the film that we watch, which if you haven't figured out yet, obviously you have. I don't even know why I say that sometime. It's fricking the title of the podcast. You know what we're covering tonight. But before we get into it, we're going to do our on-the-fly synopsis where one of our hosts, and they don't know who, is going to be giving a brief explanation outline of 30 Days of Night. And since Jaime had to do it last week, she gets to be the questioned person this week. And my question for you, Jaime, is where are you holding up during an Arctic vampire killing spree? Are you going to the diner, the police station, or the general store?
I mean, the first and last are so similar because like as far as protection, you would think the police station has the most protection, but I assume the police station has the least amount of food. So general store, and that's just simply based on supplies.
Just at the Winchester.
Yeah.
No, that was you asked that for something else.
I'm going to answer that every time. The Winchester. Get a pipe, let the whole bleed blow over. That's all I gotta do.
Well, Eli, as our general store.
I don't know. That's insulting, kind of.
How? Why?
I like to consider myself.
He's always insulted.
Listen,
He's
I like to consider
myself
myself
he finds
a specialty store, a specialty store, a general store. I think not, but okay.
Christ.
I can summarize as some gun.
Yeah, it's easy.
This movie follows a group of people who live in a northern Alaskan town during one of their polar nights, which is 30 days of darkness. When all of a sudden, a gang of what only can be described as feral hobo vampires wander into their town and shenanigans ensue. Starring Josh Hartnett.
Josh Heartthrob. I think that's really all you need to know about.
Yeah, that's it.
And because our juju continues to be strong, as has happened in the last few, the person who was randomly picked also gets to throw off his first thoughts. So
awesome.
See this in theaters? What do you think of this movie?
I did. You know what? I did see it in theaters because I read the comics first, and I enjoyed them. I was a what you might classify as a emo scene kid when I was high school, and I don't know why, but this movie, probably because it's Josh Hartnett, but this movie was kind of real big in the emo scene world. Hot Topic had various shirts.
Well, it's because it's a horror movie. It's a horror movie and a comic.
But I think it's because the way the vampires were dressed. I knew quite many of my emo brethren know you were dressed like them.
I was like a queen of the scene. You don't have to tell me.
Oh, well, I don't remember seeing you at any of the meetings. Anyways, so I did go see it in theaters, and I really liked it when it came out. I enjoyed it. I will say this: what I've kind of as I've gotten older, and especially on this rewatch, like it's a good movie. The effects look good. It's a cool setting. I think with this movie has diminishing returns for me, because the vampires, even though they look cool, their teeth are more like almost like feral, like like shark's teeth, or like even piranha kind of teeth. It would kind of remind me of. I like the fact that of all like we'll call like the universal or like original monsters, like vampires were the ones that had that human cunning and coy, and they were a monster because they were depraved, not because they weren't in control, or you know what I mean, like they weren't like always chaos. And so I kind of find like I enjoyed that, like a Dracula more, like that version of a vampire than this. But I mean, it's a cool flick. It's fine, you know. I watched it. I didn't hate it. There were still parts I remember. I was like, oh yeah, that's okay. I remember that. Like that was cool. But you know, it's all right. If you like this type of, you know, vampire,
at least it doesn't sparkle, right?
Yeah. Oh God, no. It's I'm telling you right now, if you know, someone walked up and goes, let's play baseball in the dark, I would have hoped those hobo vampires would have kicked the shit out of them.
What?
Remember, because in the Twilight movie they played baseball.
Not remember. I've never seen fucking Twilight because I'm a grown-ass woman.
I wish I was you. I wish I was you.
You can never get that back.
I can never get that back.
Never get that innocence back.
No. Sometimes when you're married, you gotta do things you don't want to do.
You don't though. Sometimes, like you know.
Yeah, but for if someone is what the self-proclaimed #1 Twilight fan of the world and watches it every, like, I don't know, 3 days, that's not really an option for you. Okay, it's not really an option.
Life is full of choices, sir.
It is.
Sounds like Eli is definitely Team Jacob, though.
No, that guy. No, he looks like an alpaca.
Oh boy.
Anyway, John, jump in here. So, did you see this in theaters? What do you think of this movie?
I actually did, like on a lark. I had no idea about the comic and just said, "Oh, vampires, 30 days. Okay, that's cool. Let's check it out." And saw it. It was funny because when this at the time, I want to say my mom said, "Let's go see this vampire movie." I'm like, "Okay," like it's like. Well, it didn't look like her type of movie. We saw it, and I just remember I was like, "Yeah, it's a cool movie." Never owned it until we had to watch it for the show, and I got this lovely 2007 movie for I think $4 on Amazon.
Whoa!
I know, it was a screaming deal, and I was not disappointed. It held up, and I think the reason why it held up because I looked it up. They shot it on film. Minimal CGI special effects, lots of blood. It actually went for the R rating, which we don't really get those anymore. But I still thoroughly enjoyed this movie. The ending is by far the weakest part of the whole story. But other than that, I really liked it. I thought it was a pretty good standout for the 2000 to 2010 movies because those are usually trash. But I'm really curious to hear what Dave says because he's had this energy tonight, so I don't know how to hang.
The ending, by the way, is straight out of the graphic novel, so that's take it or leave it for what. But it's like shot for shot. But I mean the true last scenes of are shot for shot out of the graphic novel. I know that because I reread it today. But
so it's a breezy read, huh? How long is it? Oh my
god, it's like I don't know. It takes 25 minutes, 30 minutes to read the whole.
It's like 3 comics, isn't it?
Yeah. They didn't even, he couldn't get it made. So that's why he did the graphic novel. Yeah. After he couldn't get the movie made, he's like, well, I'll make a graphic novel. That got popular, made the movie. The sequel was issued, though, before they made the movie.
Yeah, I never read the sequel, but anyway,
Don't.
I won't.
Do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't a 30 issue run because 30 days a night. But
All right,
but
Jamie,
that's just
jump in
me.
here. Did you see this in theaters?
So I don't remember if I saw it in theaters, but I want to say no because I own it on DVD. And I know that sounds weird, but um back in the good old days of 2007, let's say 2008, whatever, Best Buy used to have like bargain bins. And I'm a person that half my DVD collection is because I used to go to Best Buy, see what was like on $5 or under, especially if it's a horror movie, it came home with me. Because to John's point of getting it for $4 on Amazon, like that was the equivalent. Like I hadn't seen it, and so so that's why I think that I hadn't seen it in theaters. I think that's why I own it, because whether that's the case, I don't know. I've seen it a couple of times here and there since. It's not like something that I frequently rewatch. Rewatched it literally barely yesterday, so mostly today for this. I like this movie. I don't know. I mean, I like this movie. I also today reread the graphic novel, so we can get into that. But it's like it's one of the closest to source material I think I've ever seen projected onto screen, for better or worse. But I think like it really is. This movie doesn't do anything like crazy original or story-wise crazy original, but it's got the things that get Jaime, which is there's gore moments that like it starts not so, but like first of all, they rip the whole town apart in like a fantastic scene of just watching them A from above or B from like ripping this town apart. Then there's things that like just like they do chop their heads off. Sometimes like they shy away from showing some of it, but then they just full out fucking show you him chopping right into a head. He gets his hand chopped off. He puts his fist through a fucking vampire's head. Like there's just like scenes that are just so much fun. I don't give a shit about the story to a degree, and we'll talk about the nitpicky things there, but I don't need to in this movie at all, because like it's beautiful to me. We talked in Dead Snow about blood on snow. This is the whole movie here is red blood on snow. And like, I think in a world of a different type of stereotype of vampires, this is a Jaime vampire. Again, I know it comes lifted right from the graphic novel, but and I'm just like, Eli brought up Twilight. That now comes, unfortunately, that comes to mind for people with vampires. I mean, like, besides What We Do in the Shadows, which is a top 5 movie of mine. Like, it doesn't count. Different. Like, I mean, it does, but exactly. It's like completely different. Otherwise, I guess I always think of these vampires as like not my cup of tea. They're often equated with like romanticism. And like, I don't know, it's like all this stuff that doesn't get to me. Like, this one gets to me because they're just more brutal and carnal and like just so. I don't know. This movie, again, for like, we'll talk about it. There's like so not much plot here. Eli summed it up in like 2 sentences because that's the whole movie. And I think the setting works. I like what they came up with. I like that that's the idea because it's like interesting to think about. And I just think it works. It's not a scary movie by any means to me, but that's fine. Like, I just think it's an entertaining ride for what it is when you're watching it. So that's it.
Fair enough. Okay, so I'm going to be the dissenting vote. This movie is garbage. Let me explain. So I remember liking this movie, and I don't remember who within the hosts recommended that we put it on the list. But when we recommended, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a fun watch. I remember enjoying that movie. But after watching it now, I realized it's like being in a really toxic relationship for years. And then several years later, being around that person, having thought, okay, well, we had our struggles, but we had a good relationship. And then being around them later and realizing, oh no, this person's just a terrible human being. That's what this movie ended up being for me. First and foremost, I had totally forgotten this or had plugged it out of my brain. The fact that they open with open dog murder is the right way to get Dave to hate your movie immediately. I mean, that's it. They didn't build any emotional tension with that or anxiety. It was just they killed off the dogs right off the bat. Okay, great. So you set a tone of this bleakness of obviously this movie. To your point, Jamie, it is if you've read the comic series, it is almost storyboarded out of that comic, which I think I think to your point, I think what was it Eli that said
Yeah,
this?
the writer
It
was
was
heavily
storyboards
involved.
first.
Yeah.
And then when Ben Templesmith got it and illustrated, it's a gorgeous comic series. I mean, it's beautiful. It's very dark. It's very desaturated. I mean, for those watching on YouTube, Jamie's got the cover behind her now.
Jamie's got.
She's got more. So it's pretty much a black and white comic with red for the blood spatter. And that's what they did with this movie. It's beautiful, but the movie's a friggin' mess. There's zero chemistry between the two main people that I'm supposed to care about and be rooting for. They have zero chemistry. I wasn't believable at all that they ever had a loving or functional marriage of any kind. It was colder than the Arctic that they were living in, their relationship. And I guess my biggest pet peeve, and we'll get into more of this and y'all can question me on this. But this movie used every emotional manipulation trick in the book and none of them worked. They
I have
used,
a long list, Dave. I'm so glad you said that.
From the animal death to the child death. And I looked it up while I'm watching this movie when they had that scene where the sheriff's deputy, by the way, in Alaska, they don't have sheriffs. That's not a position that exists up there. But when the sheriff's deputy had heard screaming and decided immediately the best thing for me to do is to shoot my family in the head. What a brave hero of a man. But I looked it up. This came out the exact same year The Mist did. And they threw that garbage in this movie and didn't earn it. And it didn't pay off anything. It didn't make me like him more. And it certainly didn't make me root for him when he has to get his head chopped off. He couldn't die quick enough because he was garbage. They had children being turned into vampires and then having to be killed. Everything to manipulate an emotion. It was like a Lars von Trier without the heady plot to go with it. They just put a bunch of tropes in there to try and make it feel bleak. And I think it's funny that we opened with this as a joke, but this is the most emo movie I've ever seen in my life.
Right?
So that's my overall
emo.
thoughts.
It took emos by storm. I don't even get it. I remember like when I liked it, I was like, oh, it's close to the comic. I like the comic. I think they should have probably not have made the movie. If it's my honest opinion, because of the order they ended up doing it in. But yeah, it was weird. Like it just took the emos by storm. And I'm like, this is all right. And like they're like, it's the best vampire movie. I'm like, I mean, is it? All right. Okay.
So that's my overall thoughts. But I mean, and again, I totally recognize that people can like different things, but this movie, if we're like we were talking with Blair Witch, if we want to talk logic, this movie has zero logic to what they did or where they went or why they did it. The fact that I'm supposed to believe that these people lived in an attic for 2 weeks with no supplies, no electricity, in negative 70-degree weather, fantastic.
I think they had a propane space heater.
Oh, perfect. That lasts for 2 days.
I think, Dave, to your point, I think that's why as time has gone on, I like those type of vampires less and less because they're meant to be these feral, like just killers, right? Why, like, they're gonna do whatever to decimate that town. Like, they're not gonna let them hold them out. Like, whatever they gotta do, and like, but at the same time, then they're not. It doesn't seem like they're conniving enough to do a plan like what I would say traditional vampires, like either the lore and history, and like even Dracula himself. The cunning and coy of like an A1 predator is not really there.
Yeah, so it's to be alpha predators, they were not acting like
no, like that's why like I like the feral stuff, like they're just like mindless. It's like, well, they're no differently than a werewolf then. Like, all right, but it's nighttime for 30 days.
Well, I mean, I guess I look at it a little bit different. This was like their playground / like blood vacation where they didn't have to they set it up so they don't have to worry about being cunning.
Yeah,
they literally get to be the cat that gets to play with their food and go crazy and not have to worry about anybody hunting them down. And it's literally like their vacation, and then they've set it up to be like their playhouse. I mean, I see you shaking your head no, but That's kind of how I look at it. Is it's like they finally discovered, oh, this place is 30 days where we don't have to kind of like hide. We don't have to do anything. We literally can own the streets.
And 11 people live here.
And that's literally in the book too. Not to do what we did with Blair Witch last time, and they were like, you have to read the book to know, because you really don't for this. This is shot. This is almost shot for shot just from the book. I've lifted from the book, but the book also has subplots that don't exist here, and one of which is just getting behind the vampire, like knowing more of their planning and their community and stuff like that. And it's like literally what John is saying is kind of what they say in it. And then the head vampire yells at him that he's a moron for doing that and like blah blah blah, because we've been trying to be, hide and not be suspicious, and you're kind of just calling. And so to John's point, that's like almost exactly why they did it.
Right,
like,
which
so
I remember, but
and I never read the book. So clearly it was effective storytelling, because I picked all that up from just the movie.
But to me, that's just like, okay.
Whether it meets your expectations or wants or desires for a story, that's a whole other thing.
No, right. Because I like the graphic novel. It is one of the better vampire graphic novels, because if we're being honest, there's not a lot of great ones. But my whole problem with that is like, okay, so that's a vacation, so you can kill 11 people.
Yeah. Well, it's not 11 in the again. I'm using the book because I don't remember if they wrote it here. In the book, it's 300 and something people.
But, right. No,
so that's a pretty big killing spree.
I mean, is it though, if you're a vampire?
Well, if it takes you, what if wherever you normally live, you have to go out at night, you have to subtly do this, you got to find the people, like you're getting one person night. They literally sit here and rip this fucking town apart and like and
it's
just
the golden corral for vampires.
Yeah,
first off, whoa, don't you compare this to Golden Corral, okay? Secondly, I understand the plot, but like in my mind, it's like that's not very. That's more of like a bottom dwelling, like it's not.
I don't think these are the cream of the crop of the vampire world.
No, but like they're not also portrayed like traditional vampires. Like these are more like
they're not
almost wild. And like I'm just saying, I prefer my vampires.
Oh, I prefer
have low class. Well, I
prefer no class, I guess.
Wow. Well, you know what? Dracula might have something to say about that.
I wanted to just before we go so far, because Dave brought it up and I made a list because I do keep notes for a reason. So I just wanted to go off Dave's point of the emotional strings they pull in this movie. And I have Dave brought up that a guy kills his whole family, his wife and kids, just because he hears people screaming. And Dave, I don't think you're supposed to like him, to be honest. Like, I think you're fuck him at that point and hope that the worst thing ever happens to him, but who knows? The guy that asked to be killed and also has a tragic backstory for absolutely no reason about how his wife and kids were killed by a drunk driver. So now he wants to be with them and he's been waiting to be with them, but he couldn't commit suicide. So please kill him. So that's the little girl that you brought up. I have no problem with little kids and whatever. The opening episode of Walking Dead also had a little girl zombie, so who gives a fuck? The woman used as bait that they have just parading around the town, pleading for her life and bleeding, and then they take her and they just start cutting her before they even like eat her. It might be worse than like the poor old man with dementia. We had to put him in the movie, who keeps asking for his wife and trying to get away. We still have more, and then we have the prototype, like the stereotypical like curmudgeon who's also a hero, but then gets the most pitiful death. He doesn't even get to like redeem himself where he wants to redeem himself. He tries to, and then they fuck that up anyway. And then the hero sacrifice and like the confession to like his brother and his wife or whatever, and like just all the emotional. So they went. I may have missed one, guys, but that's like everything they threw in this movie.
You missed the Malamutes.
Which I had in the beginning. Yeah. I have one of my second notes. So honestly, it might not be the first. It might not be the opening day because I have one note before it. But then I wrote, I do not remember the dog murder and I don't like it.
What about the melted cell phones? I mean, that's pretty triggering these days.
And that's right out of the comic also.
You know what's weird about this? I think it really was made in I get like he wanted to make this a movie a couple years before he became a comic. He kept shopping it around. And then to your point, Dave, a lot of other bleaker stuff came out. And then they're like, oh, well, that's all popular. Let's make this. And by that point, like it was kind of played out. And like also too, like I think a lot, like when you hear people who really enjoy the comic, most of it's like fantastic art. Like it's not really the story that
it's the artwork of this
book. Right. And like
in this era, that's what was going on, because that's when they were making all the Frank Millers too, the 300s, the Sin Cities, all of that stuff was happening. The very stylized movies were coming. But to your point, Jamie, you listed off all of these things that a different movie would take one of those things and actually flesh it out and make it emotionally resonating. This is all edgelordy. It's there for a scene and then it's gone. And so
you need a trope alert on that one, Dave.
Let's be honest, they were just looking for any type of another dark, edgy movie to put Josh Hartnett in.
Exactly. Well, and that's fine. I know that this was at the peak of his sort of popularity, but even he is a complete dullard through this movie. Like the decisions he's making and his emotional gravity that he brings to the movie is, I don't care that if he dies or not.
And I don't care. I want to know, one of my questions to you guys is like, is there a reason why for something that's so lifted from the source, or whether this is the source, like Eli told me tonight, I didn't realize like he wanted to make a movie 1st and then made it. So whatever, it does not matter. Is there a reason why in this it had to be like a separated couple with issues rather than in the book where it's a married couple? Like, wouldn't I care about, wouldn't I care about them more if they were married? Like, and they had a happy relationship where they're looking out like for each other, which I guess they ended up doing anyway.
Functional
like,
humans. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know why we had to like change their dynamic at all. And
honestly,
like,
it was probably studio notes. Like, it's probably those things they're like, well, yeah, but like, let's do this. Like, it's more heart wrenching if it's their divorce, or like you could tell they were going for like just the most depressing shit in the world. Yeah. And like, because like the stuff you changed, to your point, is a lot of it was like nothing crazy.
Yeah.
And more of it was just to make it as bleak as possible, which once again, I would argue that like even like The Walking Dead, not the show, but if you're discussing like even like creative comics and what The Walking Dead tore off, probably did it better. With what they would change and some of the stuff they pulled, but like it's
Walking Dead had a lot more time to do it though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but this wasn't but like again, like The Walking Dead was what 100 and something, like where this was a graphic novel, so it's not like
no. I mean, like the series could is that what you're saying? You're saying this? You're saying
I'm saying
the
what
comics did it better.
What I'm saying is like where the comics and The Walking Dead fleshed it out better, and then even a lot of stuff they would change for the sake
because
of
filming. Hate a lot of things that they changed for The Walking Dead.
So did I, but some of the things they changed made more sense than anything they changed here.
Well, I don't think they changed. I think here they were minor, so they make.
That's what I mean. Like they were just a bunch of little like.
It's just
that's why? Like okay, because they're just trying to make it bleaker. They're like, let's just make it more depressing.
Well, to your question, Jamie, my guess would be is after 2 days of shooting with these two lead actors and seeing the amazing chemistry they had, they said, no, they're separated.
I was going to say the same thing, Dave. Because Melissa George, she has this look in almost everything.
Yes, and thank you said it, because she was my my hated of this decade. Like there was something about Melissa George I could not stand. She
was in too much.
I thought it was Jessica, or no, what was Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
No, I didn't hate. No, she was just. I just didn't
Jessica
like her.
Biel.
I mean,
Jessica Biel. I just didn't like her pants.
Like her. Yeah, I didn't like. I find her blah and boring and bland as can be. But
that's how I feel about Josh Hartnett.
But there's something about Melissa George that like I was not a fan of in horror movies. Like, and she was like, I mean, it's just that.
She's
the same in everything.
I find it hard to relate to her as a character.
But that is literally like that's her jam, dude. That is who she is.
I feel why did they cast her?
I have no idea. She's apparently got a great agent because she was in a ton of stuff back then, and I believe she's in the new show Mosquito Coast, which I tried to watch because Justin Theroux, but
I don't even know what that is.
It's on Apple TV. But it's the same thing. This is what she does.
I would say the same thing. Like I agree with her, but Josh Hartnett was the same way. Like let's be honest. Like anything he was in this before.
Fan.
Well, no, right.
He just exists also.
Right, but I'll be honest. Like Josh Hartnett, I didn't realize he could act until Penny Dreadful, and I thought he did a fantastic job through that whole series. Mm-hmm. Prior to Penny Dreadful, he was just a guy with messy hair that stood there, and then like 30 Days a Night. Yeah, 30 Days a Night came out. Like he's the lead, and I'm like. I didn't know we need a lead of a guy that stands there with messed up hair. And of course they got that shot when he like pulls his toboggan off, messed up hair. And it wasn't even that long. I'm like, how do you have that spike like cowlick thing going when you've been wearing a fucking toboggan for 10 years?
Well, at least he got out of that.
Not a toboggan.
Faculty haircut he had going on.
Which was messy hair. It made no sense.
That's what that was the style, was messy hair.
Elijah Wood did not have messy hair in that movie.
Okay. I want to tell you, I hate to break your heart, but do you know what role Elijah Wood played in that movie versus Josh Hartnett?
The cool guy.
Do I need to
the cool guy. Everybody knows nerds are the cool guy.
Who Elijah Wood was?
He was Frodo Baggins, all right.
Yeah.
Everybody knows he's the cool
tell
guy.
You that Elijah Wood was not a heartthrob for any of his career.
He was a heartthrob for me. What are you talking about? All right. Heartthrob for me. Steven the Good Son. The man could act since he was a child.
All right. Well,
So one of the things that, as I was thinking about that, I think what frustrated me, and the reason I was excited about it, and I did not see this in theaters, I saw it after it had come out. But even today, my wife asked me what we were reviewing tonight, and I told her 30 Days a Night, and then I gave her the concept. She goes, "Oh, that sounds very cool." And I think that's part of my frustration, is that the concept of this isolated town that doesn't get sunlight for weeks and months is a very cool vampire setup. I think that concept deserves a better movie than what they got. This is one of those rare occasions where I would say I would like a studio to pick up this property and remake it currently. Like, I think a remake of this movie could be really good.
I wouldn't even say a remake necessarily, but just take the concept and divulge far or differ far, like pretty far from the source material.
Because
like
all the things that are cool about that concept, A, that it's in the Arctic Circle, it's sub-zero, it's isolated, and B, that it's 30 days where the sun does not come up at all, did not play any part in this movie. Like the fact that I did not get the feeling that they were ever cold, and I certainly didn't get the feeling that it was dark out. And part of that is because they did the day for night thing for the shoot, and that was pretty obvious. But the fact that you're doing a vampire movie where the sun doesn't come up for 30 days, that should play a pretty big pivotal role in what you give me. But everything was beautifully lit all the time. So I totally forgot that it was night. And then the fact that in one of the most harsh environments on the planet, everybody seems to be thriving for weeks at a time with no supplies or electricity. So the cold wasn't an issue. But I think if a director took that concept and really played into those things on top of having these supernatural vampires that are alpha hunters, and you could make a really, to your point earlier, Jamie, you could make a really scary story. I think you can have a really gory, scary movie where there's deep shadows all the time. You can nothing is perfectly lit and focused, but this movie ain't it.
Who's your pick, Dave, to remake it?
Who's my pick to remake this now? That's a good question.
One name came to mind for me was Frank Darabont or Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, Tarantino would do a good one, I bet.
There would be too much talking in a Tarantino.
Yeah,
that's but just in terms of like the Hateful Eight, you felt cold in that.
Yeah.
What about what's his name who did
but the dialogue would be awesome.
Oh man, what about
but it'd be awesome.
Why can I not think of the name of that movie? Tarantino's friend who did that vampire movie that I'm drawing blank.
Eli Roth?
No. Wow, my God. Him and George Clooney were
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Oh, Dusk Till Dawn? No.
Dusk Till Dawn. I think
Boba Fett ruined him. Sorry. He's tainted.
Hey, give him a second chance.
No.
Give him a second chance. You know what's also weird about like the other thing too that always cracks me up with this, and like this is just so stupid, but did you know the town's a real town in Alaska?
Yeah, Barrow.
And yeah, Barrow's a real town, and it's in the same spot that the movie says it is. Do you know what the difference is?
Doesn't get 30 days a night.
It gets 60 days.
Oh,
Their polar night is 60, not 30. And the town changed their name.
Yeah.
So
well, they changed it back to the indigenous name.
Yeah.
Oh, so here's a question that just about like living in like that kind of town, because it obviously they really exist. Like, but the beginning of this movie, like right away, and I get it for this too. It's setting the stage, like it's doing as much as it can, because really there's no plot to this movie. I'm not even saying that as a criticism. I'm just saying like there's not a lot. So they're gonna give you everything you need to know. It's about to become sunset, like we're about to lose the sun, like whatever. But like, does that many people just leave their hometown for just a month because they get one time every year? It feels like, and this is gonna sound like really, but I was like in a hole on Instagram, and there was a woman who lives somewhere, and I'm so sorry, I don't know where. And I guess it's like where she gets the night, and it's like she was full. That was the whole point of it, like showing you how they function for the month, like whatever, and like what they do, and she goes to work full time, like regular, and like like they don't just shut everything down for 30 days because.
And certainly the airport stays open, and I looked that up because that made no sense. But the airport in the real Barrow flies every day.
It just shut down for a month.
Planes do fly at night.
Yeah, I'm sitting there.
What?
And then I thought, then I thought I wasn't paying attention and it was like the snowstorm or something. Like I was just like, it must be the weather and the darkness. Like something's gonna be bad here because for fuck's sake, I land all the time at night. Like I almost exclusively fly home at night. Like
my old mail lady, or where I grew up in the country, we had a lady who ran the postmistress, or whatever you call it. Her daughter lived in northern Alaska, and she said that a lot of it's seasonal work up there. So a lot of the seasonal people, when that happened, is off season. So they'd almost like snowbird. They would go South Alaska where it was nicer because a lot of people do get depressed. But as the years have gone on, it's got cheaper to get actual UV lights. So they do get some sunlight. Not as many people leave now.
Yeah, I think
because,
this woman had something set up so that they had like fake daylight. But also like, but it's just like I totally listen, seasonal depression is like I hate when it gets winter. I hate when it gets dark early. I'm not that person. And as cheery as I am, which is why I say it's funny, because I do like sun and brightness. I like spring. I like, but it's just like you're living there for 1 month. You have to like, you don't move there. If this is something, you don't move to a place that gets 30 fucking days or 60 to the point of like where it gets 30 days of night. If you can't handle the 30 days.
She was she was
her daughter sell booze there because too many people kill themselves. That's
right. Like she was a researcher for something, and she said like their town would basically die during that time because all the seasonal workers would leave. There was no reason for them to be there anymore, and then the season would typically start when it would stay later longer, and then that's when they'd all come back. It was almost like a college town, or how college town works. Like during the summer, the way it was described. But then some of the seasonal workers, it was cheaper for them to stay once it was cheap for them to get UV lights.
And I even get that. Like in this though, it was people who like obviously full time, like leaving their husband. There was one woman leaving her husband, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying like these were full established people who live in this town as their full time. And all of a sudden she's like, oh, I see it.
And I want to circle back on something you said because it did hit me when it happened, and I laughed out loud. That when you mentioned UV lights, and of course that's one of the big pivotal scenes when they go to grandma's house where she's got her grow set up. She's got her grow house set up.
Yep, which makes no sense. Why was it
grow lights do not emit UV light because they destroy the plants. So if he turned that lamp on a vampire, that it went, what are you doing? So that was horseshit.
Yeah, they couldn't do that research.
Or at least that's my understanding on grow lamps is that they do not emit UV light. That's what I've heard from.
It's just heat. Just the heat.
And that is not in the comics.
No. It was a weird thing that they put it there. Like I said, like they just put it like they had a bunch of like little weird changes. You're just like, no, okay.
Yeah. Well, that whole family is added, like his grandma and his brother are all added.
But like they don't really bring anything. Like it's not.
No, you need more for Dave's point. You need more cannon fodder. You need more emotional like fodder. Like you need to kill which the grandmother was the most non-emotional thing ever because it was off screen and it was like not even. And then you need the brother because I guess the brother. Well, no, because the wife is there. But I was just gonna say, like when I was rereading it, like maybe the brother is the more happier relationship. You know, the healthy relationship, if you will. Right. And then there's the wife, but it's still.
I would like. I kind of wish they would have either like. I would have been fine even if they had steered in and tried to make this more like. Not so much of a story, but like the imagery, like try to make it more like an artistic, which I typically don't like artistic horror. But in this sense, because like the way this works, if they would have kind of steered to that, like then maybe I think I would like it better. I don't hate it. I find that like I give 3 flying shits less about this movie every year.
But to your point that you just said, like I had mentioned earlier too, like there is such very little plot, and to Dave's point, he has a lot of nitpicks about that. Like you can watch this with no plot, and artistically, if you want, I don't mean artistically, but like you can literally sit there with this thing and barely put the sound on, and you could just watch it and watch chaos unfold and beautiful special effects unfold and nonsensical punching through heads, and just be like, that's a movie I just saw. And you totally guess what? You can every beat, what's happening.
But, yeah, but like I don't know. Like I know it's a preference thing, but for me, like the movies I put in the background that like I can just in the background, like this, like it's trying to be too dark, and it's like, okay, it's not. Like, all right. Okay, guy. Like that's what you're doing, trying to make me sad. I'm not sad.
Yeah, it's on a long road trip with my emo cousin. That's what this movie is. I'm not having a good time. I'm tuning it out. I'm not impressed with all of the dark, brooding things that they're
Yeah.
saying.
You know what it cracks me up. Like when I say I was like emo scene kid, we were country emo scene. So like that was real different than regular emos. And like I remember when we go to concerts and you'd be around like the real emo scene kids and like they'd be talking and like all the country emo kids or like the the group of 8 of us, we'd all be looking around like we don't quite fit in here either.
They hate differently than we hate.
Yeah, this is a different kind of we just hate because everything closes at 8 and there's nothing going on. Like they're talking about something that's I don't think that's real. And then we'd kind of do this little shuffle over like, all right.
So, and to the point, I think I know now, but I did write it down as a question I want to ask. Does any of this emotional nihilism actually hit for any of you, or is it just like Crawl? It's just a carnival ride kind of movie. Because emotionally, this movie does nothing, and I think it actually is a detriment to actually try and write any sort of relational stuff to these people. They're just like you said, Jamie. They're cannon fodder. Or does it hit for you? Does the story mean anything to you?
No, this is a carnival ride.
I don't even know if I call it a car ride. It's more like a hay ride.
No, it's a carnival
but there's no
ride
hay
because it's got a lot. It's got a lot of
that tractor
like,
scene. Come on, man. A
so
vampire
much. There's
literally
so many fun
falls on
scenes.
a.
Like
it's so good.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun scenes in this movie, and that's like the thing. Does it hit for me? The like. As pathetic as it is, like the ending a little bit, I do feel a little bit like just I know it's corny as fuck, but just the ending when they're sitting there and like literally she's like, I like a lot of things. If you're going to hold someone while they die, it kind of hits me like a little bit. And like, but not otherwise. I don't think the things they try and throw at you, like a man whose backstory we didn't need anything about and his family dying, like none of those hit. Even the guy killing his whole family because it's just like thrown in your face out of nowhere. And you're just like, and then it's just like, okay, let's go. Because like you said, it's all used. Like, right. It's just all used. Nothing's developed. It's all just like.
Right. You know what's weird too? I'd say even to the Niles comment, if it wasn't for the artists when they decided to go graphic novel for this, because to me, the law of the nihilism from the graphic novels in the art. The art is kind of what brings that dread. If any other artist would have did that, I don't even know if this has been popular enough graphic novel to make a movie.
Probably not.
So like I really because that's why I think it's really the art itself and like to me the movie doesn't convert on the movie and the plot's not there. So
I mean the movie is a lot. I'm not saying because you can't replicate an artwork, but the movie as I'm looking behind me is the same colors. The whole movie is gray, blue, and then red is the only other
right but like it's not like
so they tried to like
the art in the comics a lot darker like today's point like it's not ever really does it ever really feel dark in the movie but like in like some of the like the panels like in the like I remember it's dark and then you got like a splash of red and like the gray snow and like there's the even the last couple scenes at the end or like or the couple panels at the end, excuse me. Whereas like in this movie, it's just like there's Josh Hartnett with his messy hair, and it's kind of dark outside. And all right, I'm sad, I guess.
Well, as just for my opinion, as the great Walter Sobchak said, no, Donnie, these men are nihilists. There's nothing to be afraid of. It comes across as so navel gazy and whiny that
it's I don't know, like it's weird. Like if you think about like this guy got lucky because he found a good artist. Because if it wasn't that artist,
the illustration carries even the comic.
That's what I mean. Like I think if it wasn't for the illustration of the comic, I don't think this movie ever would have been made. Because that to me, that's what really made the comic popular.
I will say this: I have the emotion. So then doing this for pure, like, just trying to pull at your emotion and it not landing is like totally fine. But I won't say that I even hated that they did it. Although I made a list. Like, I guess I also have this, and there's movies that do it way better. And like we talked about in The Descent, where I sometimes prefer the more realistic, like, quote unquote bad or sad, depressing ending. This movie is not realistic in the least. I'm not trying to say that. But like, I don't mind at times if someone just wants to make everything fucking bitter and he hates the world. And maybe that's because I am that person. So like if he wants to fucking make everybody miserable and make everything sad and make it, I'm like all for it. I don't give two shits whether it lands. I mean, that's another story and whether he's trying, but also like then you'd be sitting here crying the whole movie and he's not making fucking, I don't know.
I don't even know if necessarily you'd be crying, right? Like but I think that if you're going to try to go for that approach where you want me to feel uneasy, and granted, it's an opinion for everybody. Like
he didn't develop anything. I admit that.
Right. Like it's all surface level. Like
yes,
I don't give a shit.
Yes, that's
so like
right.
If you want to make a movie dark, like I'm all for it. Like you want to go that nihilistic view. Hey, I'm your guy. My insides are black as coal. But like if you're gonna do something like this where it's kind of like they're all sad, and I'm like, all right, well. I mean, are they really? Because like, no, I don't give a shit. And like, there's just like, or if you want to go that route, don't make everything sad. Like, or you can make everything sad, but don't have as many sad things where you can like pick 3 or 4 of them and development. It's going to feel that is actually going to carry me into a sadder place and just like, welcome to the worst fucking town in the world where everything is sad and depressing. Hot Topicville. Fucking Alaska.
Well, I mean, they live in fucking darkness for 30 days, of course.
They have UV lights for their weed.
Oh. Also, at the end,
it
is
choice
like
weed. They shouldn't be sad.
Yeah, we do see at the end, right? I'm just clarifying. It's like there were more people hiding, right? At the end, it looks like more people come out than we've been with.
Like
we've been with like we're down to I think we're down to 4 by the end of it. Well, they pick up a child, so we were down to 5. We lose spoiler alert, we lose Josh Hartnett, so we're down to 4, but they pick up a child. So we back at 5 or I don't know.
Well, does the child count as a whole or like half?
It doesn't. So 4
you have to measure their height.
Whatever. So like I'm just saying at the end though, once he's like after he fights and kills the main vampire or whatever, like people start coming out. And I was like, where the fuck?
Yeah, but the problem is all those other vampires still exist.
Yeah.
They just leave. There. They just leave.
Mm-hmm. And they
just walk out. Perfect.
Yeah, they're just no, one could presume the sun's about to come up and they didn't make it out in time.
Well, they did do a sequel, Dave, so spoiler alert. They're not happy about what happened and they're still there.
Well, not gonna watch that.
Are they still in the town? They couldn't get out in time. How did they get out in time?
It's like a
wait, they sure didn't seem concerned about getting out on time, by the way.
Well, yeah, because there's places to go, people to see.
Well, I mean,
they hide in the snow.
They go underground with the moles? Is that
No, with the moles.
Probably.
There's no moles in Alaska. Everybody knows this.
But I'm just saying, was that their plan when they came over on their boat or whatever? When they come over, like, is their plan to actually get out in 30 days? I would think it should have been, but did they get distracted trying to burn the whole town down? And then now they're stuck there and they go, fuck, we have to live under town.
They don't actually leave. Like, they're just up there. Because even during the summer.
Oh, they're just going to wait for the next year?
Well, no, but like, they're still being up there. Like, they travel around up the north.
They go to Santa's workshop.
Even during the summer, obviously. The days are still shorter.
Okay, but that wasn't the plan in this. The plan was to take advantage of having 30 days. Well,
yeah, like a straight town, but like in the sequel, they do it with a vengeance.
Well, of course.
And Josh Hartnett's ex-wife, ex-future wife, I don't know.
No, she's in it. She's his wife because in the comic, wait, the second one has what's her name in it?
The movie, yeah.
Yeah, the movie. She's in it. I didn't know that. I never saw it.
I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it's her. Ish, but the comic was a piece of shit. So
I know it was the beginning is at the end of the first one, so you can read the beginning of the second one.
It's a piece
and
of
she's
shit.
like a vampire hunter.
Yep, which makes no fucking sense.
Where do you go to get trained for something like that?
New Orleans, apparently, according to the first one.
She speaks to a what was it? I'm trying. It's been a long time. Did she say like she found a voodoo shop?
Well, so the first one, the 2 plots they leave out is that the head vampire, they like mix them in there. There is like a head vampire who the head vampire in the movie like invites. Like he's so happy he did this. And then like that guy's like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, how are we gonna like pretend this didn't happen? Hide this and blah, blah, blah. that's one and that they communicate via email and stuff
Yep,
too,
that's
which
correct.
is like,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
they're very into like up on
Doesn't make sense.
technology.
Yep.
Jamie's quoting the book to us. Not a good sign.
Nope.
And well, I literally read it today. And the other subplot they dropped is that this woman in New Orleans is sending her son.
Yep.
And then you presume that they're vampire hunters to
Yeah.
go get proof that this is going on right
And
now
I
in
think-
Barrow. And that plot is like literally worth 3 sentences.
Yeah.
So
And if I remember correctly, towards the end of
and he
it, like
dies.
there's voodoo. It's something like she runs a voodoo shop, or
She looks like she is.
there's
I'm not trying to
something-
stereotype, but the setting looks
it's
like they didn't go
something
into
with
it.
voodoo's involved somehow. And you're
Well, she's
like,
probably in the second one because in the first
Yeah.
one he dies
And
so
you're
quickly
like-
that
you're
like,
like-
what?
what? Like they're in Alaska.
Jamie, I know you just read this. This is a Dark Horse, right? It was distributed with Dark Horse, wasn't it?
I believe, or
I don't know. Eli, answer that. I'll Google it because it's
I
sitting
know
inside.
he went
Oh, okay.
to Dark Horse and IDW, and
Alright, give
one
me-
of them said, "No, thank you."
Okay.
Here, I'll look it up real quick because I'm drawing a blank. But I
The
think
reason
it's
I
Dark
ask is because
Horse.
I like a lot of the Dark Horse illustrators, and I know that he's illustrated for other Dark Horse stuff. Ben has, but with the point about vampire hunters, I wonder if there's crossover stuff happening with
IDW.
Constantine and those kind of things.
That's right. He went to
IDW,
Dark
okay.
Horse first,
IDW.
and they're like, "That's a no from us, dog." And
Okay.
then they went, "Oh, you know what? No, because IDW bought Dark Horse."
Well, that's
At
the
one
back of the.
point.
Well,
Hold
that's
on a
what
second.
that's the logo on the book that I am holding in my hand.
Oh no. They were always IDW. Dark Horse told them no.
IDW.
He
Gotcha.
couldn't get the movie made, so then they went to Dark Horse, like, "Hey, we have this cool comic," and they're like, "Tell us about it." And they're like, "That sounds lame because we're currently doing Ash versus Michael versus Freddy versus Jason versus Alien
and The
that-
Walking Dead.
and The Walking Dead," and that sounds like less of a like I'm talking about just the Ash series. Sounds
Oh,
like
yeah.
less than a piece of shit. Because like they did a whole series of Ash versus. Eventually, got to the point where he was fighting everybody in the horror world. I don't even know how they got the rights for all those. And then they went to yeah, well. Then I was like, "Yeah, we guess." And then he got lucky, he got a good artist.
Yeah. And to your point, John, I do think that there are filmmakers now that could make a really slick and genuinely horrifying story.
Or do you think it would be a better TV series
where
where they
Maybe.
could develop stuff?
I'm a little
No.
cold
This is
on
a one
TV
shot,
series
man.
right now.
This is a one shot.
Okay.
I'm
The movie
cold
is the
on
right format.
remakes, and I don't think this needs to be remade. And I'll tell you why. I think
Okay.
I agree, Dave. They spoiled that concept that you wanted, but because this is I'm gonna push up my glasses right now, but like because this is a source material that people do love, and even if it's just for the artwork, there's like no need to remake this because like then you're just you need to keep it looking like this. I feel like, and since the movie hits the comic so well and literally lifts the panels right off the like, if you're gonna remake it, then you're making a different movie, and then you're just taking 30 Days a Night, and you're just to some people like ruining. I don't know. You're just like. I think they ruined their opportunity, and that's maybe even in the comic to tell a better story with a town that goes dark for 30. And I get that, but it's like then you're just stealing the idea and like can't really
it's
remake
horror.
it at this
Do that
point,
all the time.
unfortunately. Yeah, I know. But
Yeah, I think they lucked out with it being a comic first because a lot of times with comic, a lot of people, there are people who like they'll look at the pictures and they say the pictures tell a story, not the bubbles. And
yeah,
I
but
think-
see, I like this movie, and so does John, and I don't like it because of the comic at all. Like when
Yeah,
when I rewatched the movie today, it was before I reread the comic, and I was very ready to start off saying, why did I think I liked this? Like I really was. Like I was watching and I was like, why do I own it? But that I realized why I probably own it. And then I was like, why did I think in retrospect I liked this movie? Because I felt like I always said, oh yeah, I like that movie. And then as it was progressing and as nonsense is happening and chaos, or my favorite is ensuing, like I was like, oh fuck, I do like this movie. Like I do, and it has nothing to do with the freaking comic. Because again, then I picked up when I had time. I was like, let me just read this real fast and see like
right. I mean, it's
how
not a
close
long
the
read.
movie was. No, it's not. It's so easy if anybody wants to. Like it takes 2 seconds.
I don't even think the sequel was that long. I think I want to say it was only an 8-issue run.
It's
was
and it
6
barely
issue
like
run?
you were saying. I mean, even there's barely any words on the page.
Right. It's
Like
the
it's
art.
it's
the-
all art. The
Yep.
whole book is art.
I'm telling you,
And the
that,
words that are here are directly in the movie
Yeah.
for the record.
Right.
Like
I'm telling you now, you want to talk about a lucky some bitch? That guy, when he went to IDW, and they're like, we'll give you an artist. He fucking won the artist lottery. Because anybody else drew that would have been a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, Jamie, and I agree. it is shot by shot from the comic, and the comic is the reason the movie is as good as it is. That's really all this movie has going for it. And to that point, you know, David Slade, who actually was the director of this, his other feature films are Hard Candy, which I saw was not a great movie, but a great concept. I think it was well as a screenplay. He took a great screenplay.
I think I own that also. Probably the same reason.
And his other big release was Twilight Eclipse.
Oh, it was?
Mhm.
So Eli's
So he knows
favorite.
his vampire.
And then for the last 10 years, he's been making TV series. So to your point, I don't think that he's a great filmmaker. I think he took some really good source material and just shot it. Just framed each of those frames from the comic and shot it.
He's like,
I
I
don't think
always
he
want to
brought a
make a
lot to the
movie in
table.
Alaska.
Hey, we all have our talents
I guess.
or lack thereof. But no, I think this movie though is just turn your brain off, leave it at the door,
Yeah, that's
and
key.
just watch it. I mean, because I just sat back. I was like, this is way better than I remember. Because like, and I think it's all about expectations. Like for every movie I've ever seen, and I think I had very middling to like less than stellar expectations. I was just like, expectations exceeded.
I couldn't wait for this emo car ride to be over.
Like that,
And
the
see,
only
you can
time
keep
I'll never get
focusing on the
again.
people. I kept focusing on the vampire. Like the
Same,
people were
John.
just the
John and I were
vampires
watching
were
the same
stupid
well,
movie.
see,
too.
that's what made me less. That's what makes me like it less and less every year is the vampire. Because I like as the older I get, I'm like I just really like
The whole head shake
Dracula
thing.
back. Oh my god!
Oh, you just want the vampire to hold you and
Nope.
snuggle you.
I want
caress
want
you and
I
Dracula
bring
want an
back.
actual predator.
Who
Yeah, I
it was
don't want
right.
Dracula at all.
Dra-
I
he
don't
was
like him at
Dracula
all.
was 10 steps ahead of everybody else. Oh, I love that book. 10 steps ahead of everybody else. Dude was out to conquer the world. And
Okay.
then like now you have these guys who are like, we're going on vacation in Alaska with our piranha teeth.
Too high stakes, bro. Too high stakes.
Oh, I love them high stakes.
I mean, you can have high stakes, but to me, I think this is, I don't know. This is, I think, the right sizing of what a vampire threat could be in the scenario school. So that's where my brain goes is I'm like, what are the vampires doing in the scenario? Don't care about Josh Hartnett. I don't care about any of these people at all.
See, but I love the supernatural element of vampires. Like this just takes that completely out.
What? Did you see how fast they can move, jump,
But
run
no,
around,
like it,
rip
but
people in half?
they were
Like,
more like that's more predator stuff. Like
Well,
it wasn't like the
How
It's-
fast a grow light can make them burst into flames.
Well,
like the supernatural element in terms of
but-
like the legend, like the shape shifting and like the
in our movie 2 movies ago, we discussed zombies and what they become and how there's like a million different types of zombies. And I'm not even talking about, I can't say the word, druggers. I don't know how to say it.
no
But
one
anyway,
cares.
what I'm saying is all these different like levels at this point of zombie. And I think like to a degree, there's not nearly as much of vampire, but this is just a subsect of someone's version of a vampire.
no right. I'm not saying
So,
that. But I'm just saying this is not my version.
I
of
know,
a
and
vampire.
that's the thing is I think it's John and I's, but like less than the
You also
personally don't really like. I'm trying to think of someone give me besides
No.
What We Do in the Shadows, a vampire movie that I would have
Interview with a
like, I just
vampire. I like that vampire.
haven't
That's
seen
actually
it
a
in
good
so
Let the
one.
Right
long.
One In is the best.
Lestat.
vampire
Oh
movie.
my god, Dave!
I didn't really like Let the Right
mouth.
One In.
I love that. Oh my god, Dave! Dave, let me ask this: do you like the original or do you like the American remake?
I
The
like the
original.
Swedish one.
I
Yeah,
love the
come
Swedish
on.
one. I don't mind the remake. Actually, the Swedish one's by far my favorite.
I actually don't know if I've seen the
Don't mind the
remake. I
remake.
don't think I did. I only saw
It's,
the
you know what?
Swedish
It's not
one.
as bad as people make it out.
Yeah.
Actually,
If it's like one of those where it's just shot for shot and just Americanized, I mean, it might not be. but,
kind
like,
of
yeah,
ish,
like-
but like a little different. Like I like it.
Honestly, I never saw the Americanized version.
Oh,
Yeah, I
really?
didn't
Because
either.
I
I didn't
enjoyed the
either.
other one so much.
One of the Chloe Grace Moretz plays the vampire. And it's actually not. She doesn't do a bad job. I like it, but yeah, no, I love that. Like that's a cool concept, and I like because it's ambiguous whether or not it's what type of vampire she is. Like how, man,
And to be honest, of the big 3 classic monsters, vampires are my least favorite. I'm werewolf, Frankenstein, then
Yeah,
vampire.
I'm a
And then
vampire
my
guy.
niece are,
vampire guy.
The
Bro.
problem is like the original, like if we're going like universal monsters or classic monsters, like none of them really do it for me. I'm just like, they're just like, I'm
Have you ever seen
sorry.
Monster Squad?
Of course, I love Monster. Let's
Monster
take that
Squad.
out of
That
it.
is-
Like,
Bro,
Can we
you
watch
fans
that
got
movie?
nards,
Right.
okay? And like, but
I love Monster Squad.
oh,
but I'm
that
just saying
Dracula, that's
like,
such a good villain. Oh my god, he's terrifying. He scared me
That's
more
not
than that
even-
old German man.
No, sure. No,
Are you a-
Monster Squad is a great movie, but those monsters as villains like don't do anything for me, really. Like,
You just broke my heart.
I'm sorry.
All right, I have one last question and one last opportunity for us all to teabag this movie. I do
I'm
have
not
to ask,
teabagging
though,
it.
who is your Franklin though for this movie? I need to know.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh man, probably Josh Hartnett. Because like this is such a depressing movie, and every time his face is on screen, it's just like watching a spoon, like flat, no surface. You're just like, all right. He's like, my ex-wife, oh man, let me do this correctly. I have this napkin. Here's my cowlick. Everybody see my hair sticking up weird?
Oh my god.
Yeah, for me,
my-
he's just milk toast. I mean,
my
he doesn't.
wife-
Yeah,
that's
he
me.
didn't. He's not even offensive. He's just there. He's
Yeah.
fine. He plays exactly the role that they gave him, which is just
I
like
feel like a nuke could have fell this guy. And he'd be like, oh no, it's going to kill everyone in the town.
All right, what about you, Jamie? Who's your Franklin?
I don't know because like I know
'Cause you
you're gonna
love
like.
them all.
Well, no, nobody's like stand out, but also nobody was fucking Franklin or what's her name from the last one.
Yeah, there's some
I
Franklins
don't.
in this movie.
I didn't have. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
trying to think.
John,
like
what's
nobody
yours? You seem like
annoyed
you
me
have
that
some.
much.
I can't even remember the character's name, but Melissa George's character. That's my Franklin.
Stella. I mean,
Stella.
Stella.
That's just because I just don't like Melissa George.
Hey,
I guess
wait,
that's
what was
like-
it? John, do you know what Stella sounds like? Stella.
I don't even know the reference.
That's Twilight. Okay.
Oh,
All right, well,
sorry. See, I
The
I
rest
don't
of
know
us
those
don't get
movies.
this.
try to set you up a fun little joke, John,
Eli,
and just
wrong
farted
audience.
in my mouth.
Wrong audience.
now I'm gonna
here.
get pink eye like Jamie. Like just farted in my
If
mouth.
your wife hasn't gone to bed yet, she might get that joke.
Come on, it's 10 o'clock, man. She went to bed 4 hours ago.
Mine is number one with a bullet is freaking Jake, the brother.
Who's the
Oh,
brother?
The
yeah.
moment he's on scene, I can't wait to punch him in the head. Like
He's
when
got
he
some real
throws
punchable
his
faces.
little tabletop figurine at the,
At the
hobo,
guy.
and he goes, "Thanks for the plastic. I'm going to pick the lock with it." And he bolts over there. I'm like, please squeeze his neck shut. Just
Yeah.
pop that head right off.
Everybody in this town should have
Useless from
died.
Moment one.
Ben
Like,
Well,
the
most
whole
of them
town deserved
did.
it.
Most of them did. I
But
mean,
that-
to be
including
fair,
the ex-wife thing. Melissa George should have gone too. Now
Well,
she's
with
a
the wife, I
voodoo
don't know
vampire hunter.
I don't know what purpose Jake serves other than to have abandoned his grandmother and leave her to be butchered.
About
yeah,
it.
he adds nothing to this movie. Like there's literally nothing.
So he was my Franklin.
It's like when they put the seeds on top of hamburger buns. No reason for it.
Yeah, the brother. Yeah, the
Yeah.
brother is the reason
Yeah.
for it.
No reason for it. Like a seed on top of a hamburger bun.
Yeah.
I think I mean, the reason, obviously, I think you're supposed to want to root for him because he's related to Josh Hartnett. But I like
Oh, I
forgot
thought you
he
were
was
gonna tell
there
me
half the time, and like
the reason
couldn't
the
care less
seeds are
about
on
him.
top of a hamburger bun. I was like,
No.
oh, I didn't know that. I got all excited.
Yeah, I assumed he was supposed to be the emotional heart of this movie, which he
Yeah,
is
I don't know.
absolutely not. Like,
He's
he's the only
not.
one who seems to be impacted about all the crap that's going on, but I don't care. He just needs to die. And unfortunately, even that's stolen from me by this movie.
Yeah,
This
true.
last
He
trailer.
gets to. He's like one of the three people. Like the.
Again, all the people are just vehicles to watch vampires.
Would
That's
you
all they are.
consider
They're
the
not real.
Blade series a better vampire movie than this?
Yes.
Blade
here.
1.
Same here. Blade 2 wasn't terrible. They bring the
If I remember,
Strugos
is
in.
Blade 2 the one with the
Strigoi, or however you say
wrestling
it?
moves?
Yeah, but
Blade
they have
2
those
is the one done
Strigoi.
by
No,
Benicio.
that's Blade 3.
Or
Blade
Del
3 is the one with the wrestling moves because actually WWE stars are in it.
Yeah, 2 is Del Toro, right?
Yeah, 2's Del Toro.
Do you know
Okay.
I've never seen them.
Those are good movies.
I know.
The
Know.
first
It's
one's
like a
Blade 1 and
weird.
2 are
It's a
good.
weird hole in my like.
Yeah, two's good.
1
Three's
is
got
classic.
your boy Ryan Reynolds in it.
Really?
Yeah, no
Yeah.
bueno.
And
It is
your
the
girl,
weakest of weak.
Miss Painted on Pants herself,
She
Jessica
is.
Biel.
Oh, that's right.
He plays
It does
Whistler's
have a
daughter.
redeeming quality to
You
it.
said your girl. I thought it'd be someone like I actually like.
Well, I thought about saying Anna Taylor-Joy, but then I figured you might hang up on
Fuck gosh.
Now we're talking.
Trucies.
Yeah. I will say, like, this has nothing to do with anything, but Dave, not only like the poor dogs, which by the way, those dogs looked like my first dog because they weren't full husky, they were like husky mixes, a lot of them.
We're going to talk
And
about
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
That's
in
my
Dave's Critter Corner.
my first dog was a husky shepherd, so like they looked very much like him. But uh those people were not nearly upset enough for all their dogs to be slaughtered. Like
Couldn't have cared less.
the tears, sorry, that should have come out of this woman and this man. And I don't know, like if they, because then I'm trying to think of like, it's not a farm. Like, not that, I mean, I don't eat meat. Like anybody knows me. Like I won't kill any animal, but like for a second you might think like it's their food source, which you would still be upset, but like their food source. So they don't see it as an emotional, maybe. I don't know how people, I'm just judging. I'm fully judging right now. But even if these are working dogs, they're dogs. They're like they're pets that like, and these people were just like more looking at it like it felt like monetary. Like they killed my dogs that like, and I was just like, are you fucking kidding? I'm sitting in a room full of my 2 cats and my dog, and I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? These people are just like, so someone slaughtered our dogs, find them. They deserve to be held responsible.
And the wife did say she's gonna kill them. I mean,
yeah, but again, it came off kill them like you stole like, you know, a few $1,000s from me. Like it came off as
I didn't
like
quite read it like
someone
that,
robbed me. That's how I like. She should have been in hysterics and couldn't even compose herself. And I get it, it's a movie, but that's
because it's not like somebody poisoned them or killed them. Like somebody butchered these dogs.
Butchered these poor dogs. Wait, what was the point of butchering?
Ben Foster butchered
exactly.
the dogs.
What was the
why?
Point?
Because the dogs would have alerted to the presence of the vampires.
Oh, I'm so dumb. I didn't even.
Because dogs have better senses than humans.
They do, but I didn't even. I know getting rid of all the. I know
perfect
everything else.
predators who would care.
What?
They got piranha
if
teeth.
The vampires can't get around dogs.
Yeah. Like, were they cats?
I mean, if
they
you
do
could
send
send
him
a
there to
hobo,
do a lot of shit, and he also does it all by himself. Like that's weird. He takes out this whole town's
it's Ben Foster though. He's a crazy psychopath in every movie he's ever done. He's awesome.
Yeah, don't pull at these threads. This sweater falls apart pretty quick.
I mean, would you call it even a full sweater? This is like that pair of sweatpants you have in your drawer that's more holes than it is fabric.
But like again, guys, line for line right out of this thing. Like literally his whole bar scene is line for line. The meat, rare or overcooked, whatever. Like all of it is just like line for line.
Yeah, but once again, no one really reads the bubble in that. It's for the picture.
I did because I was trying to.
Well, this is the one. Like I remember it because like I read it. I don't know. It was a while ago.
I read it until today. I hadn't read it since 2008 or whatever, 2009. Like I don't.
I mean,
to quote somebody very close to me, if I have to read the freaking book to understand what's going on, then the movie has failed.
Correct.
Fair, but you don't because what I'm saying is the exact same lines are in this movie.
And I was able to read the context from the movie, and I knew the vampire's backstory.
Once again,
clearly,
I don't think that is the swing you think it is.
I'm not saying it's huge. I'm not saying it's.
Listen,
I'm just saying
I'm on your side, John. I'm on your
proficient.
Side. Okay, I'm not. Listen, I'm on your side.
If we were still rating, this is Trail Family just to piss everybody off.
There you go. At this point, I figured everybody picked their corners at this point.
This is 11 out of 10. Highly recommend. Will rewatch.
I think this is one of my top 5 movies of ever. That's
all
time.
Fantastic.
Mandatory viewing.
So sad.
Mandatory. If you don't like this, you are a trash person.
Just so sad for you both.
Sorry, I think we interrupted a long time. I had probably interrupted a long time ago. Whatever, like where we were going. But
I'm just happy season 2 is starting off where we began. The lines in the room are clearly drawn correctly, and things are all right in the world.
Back to normal.
Yes.
If this is the hill you want to die on, I'll let you.
Yeah, go ahead. Dave and I'll go watch a real vampire movie.
No, you go watch Blair Witch.
I love that. Hey, I love that.
Do that too.
Any other thoughts on
30 Days of Night?
Oh, I would gladly rewatch this over Blair Witch.
Oh, absolutely. Hands down.
Dave, that doesn't surprise me. Sad. Either. You know, it just makes me so sad.
Can we watch the tractor scene in slow-mo a few more times?
So now that we've wrapped up our overall thoughts in this movie, I do want to, and we kind of teased it just a minute ago, we do have the new segment of Dave's Critter Corner. There were not any animals in this movie other than our beloved dogs that we've talked ad nauseum about. Those dogs, to your point, Jamie, are not Siberian Huskies. They are Alaskan Malamutes, which are indigenous to that area. They are one of the most direct descendants of wolf dogs, which you and I have talked about a lot in the past. And they've been around for like over 4,000 years, living with Paleolithic hunters. So they're one of the oldest breeds on the planet. They're the closest direct descendants to wolves. Mallees, as they are called. They don't bark much, but they are very vocal. And they like to talk to their humans and moans and howls. And you can go to YouTube and look at Malamutes and listen to them talking and whining and complaining.
Yeah, and Huskies do that too. And there's a lot of Instagram Huskies that are out there for being vocal.
Being vocal, yeah. The name comes from the indigenous people, the Malamutes Inupiaq. And I apologize if I'm butchering that, but that's where their name Malamute comes from. It's because they grew up, or the breed was originally lived with this indigenous group. They are very intelligent dogs, but unlike border collies and other dogs that are known for their intelligence, Malamutes are very intelligent, but also very independent and willful. One of the things I love about Huskies and Malamutes and wolf dogs is that you have to earn their respect. They're smart enough to know that you should treat them a very specific way, and if you don't, then I'm not going to do shit you tell me to do. That's sort of the Malamute attitude, which I appreciate. So they want to be a valuable member of your family team. If they don't get the respect, then they will not respond. They're very similar to Siberian Huskies, except, to your point, Jamie, they are much larger. They're usually about 10 to 20% bigger, heavier, and stronger than a Siberian Husky would be. That's just the way they've been bred. Again, because they're closer in descension to the original wolves that had been around for millennia. It was a critical working dog. I thought this was interesting as I looked it up. They were Malamutes were used in both world wars as working dogs for sled teams and that kind of thing, to take supplies and ammunition and weapons in the European section of both of those wars. They were also, and we've all heard the story of Balto and the great sled to bring diphtheria medicine from Nenana to Nome, Alaska. Well, most of those teams were actually Malamutes. Now, Balto was actually a Siberian Husky, the lead dog, but the Malamutes were the load carriers in that 1925 famous story. And as I talk about these, and I do love them as a dog, I've never owned one, and I'll explain why now, because I think it's my responsibility. If you think this is all cool, you need to know what you need to know before you decide to adopt a Malamute, because they are different kinds of dogs. So things that you need to know just off the jump is that they are very prone to digging and tearing things up. They're very active dogs. They do not like to be alone. They are pack animals. They do not like to be left alone. So don't get one Malamute and then work an 8-hour shift and expect your shit to still be in one piece when you get home. They don't like to be alone. They need to have solid, consistent companionship. Not only they're not very friendly with other pets, especially competitive pets like other dogs, especially other dogs of the same sex as they are. They're extremely competitive and have that pack mentality to find their place. So they can be very aggressive to other animals, especially, and certainly other smaller animals like cats and stuff. It may not be a great fit. They're very stubborn, as I said, especially if they feel they are not getting the respect they deserve. So they're not easy to train, and they're very willful. They need a lot of regular exercise and challenges. They need to be given functioning things to do because they are working dogs. They're not good guard dogs. They're as likely to bite your cousin who visits as they are a stranger. They're just aggressive. You don't know what's going to set them off. So be aware of that. Will readily challenge for alpha position. So if you're trying to be the alpha in your family, they will constantly challenge you on that. If they don't feel like you're doing a good job as the alpha, they will constantly be reevaluating you as the alpha of the pack and trying to and they do shed a ton, just because, like most polar breeds, they have like 3 layers in their pelt.
Yeah, they're a Spitz breed like my dog does. So they have a dual coat, so they blow it every however long. I feel like Seri's blowing it 365 days a year.
Yeah,
so
they're constantly shedding.
It's like it's just always.
And to that point, please, and I think my other hosts would agree with me on this, if you live in a warmer climate, even a temperate climate, Malamutes are not a great dog for you to consider adopting, just because they struggle, like genuinely struggle. Their lifespans are shorter if they're in hotter climates and hotter areas. But we love our Malleys. So
Love them. They're one of my favorites is Huskies they're all Spitz breeds. And like I've come to learn as I've learned more about breeds and my dog and whatever that I love Spitz breeds. Like it's just the look of a dog that I love. And it also all comes from my first dog. Like I said, was either, we don't know because he was found in the woods, but he was either a Malamute shepherd or a Husky shepherd, or God willing, an actual one of those and a wolf, because that's what, like, when I've gone to the wolf sanctuary, it was like a sea of Rickies. That was my dog. And I was just like, holy fuck, they look just like him. And I know you, because first of all, a lot of these wolf dogs, just people know, like their other half is a shepherd or a husky or a Malamute. Like that's just like what the other portions of them tend to be. So like they all kind of like look the same, but everything Dave said is very true. So yeah. Although mine was like the sweetest thing you've ever seen. Like it ruined dogs for me. I don't mean it like that, but like he was such a good dog that when he unfortunately passed away at like 16, not to bore everybody, but like our next dog was like a puppy, also rescued. Like we had no idea how to handle that because this dog, like it was nothing like our dog that used to be able to sit around with no leash, and like he was just like the most easygoing. It was like, what the fuck happened? But yeah, anyway, Malamutes, they're adorable.
But know what you're getting into.
Yes. Well, with any breed that you're thinking about getting, people, please
do your research.
Do your research first before you just say, oh my God, this thing's so cute and I want one. Because there are a lot of breed specific things that people just don't know.
Yeah. John, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, you brought up Balto, and if anybody's interested in that story, there's a movie on Disney Plus called Togo with Willem Dafoe, and it's actually quite good. It will tug on your emotional heartstrings, but it's all about the sled dogs. And
that's why I won't watch it. I won't watch it.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, I know.
I've heard good things. I've never seen it for the same reason, James.
Yeah, I'm not going there.
Especially for the next few years, Dave's not going to be watching.
Totally understand.
I can't even make it through Homeward Bound, and I've seen it 5 million times, and I can't make it through that movie.
I can't make it through that one because I know too much of the backstory of how that movie was.
I don't know. I don't know.
Nope, we're not talking about it. All right, Eli, what are we following up this gem of a movie on Campfire Tales?
Yeah, I thought a lot of people think the basis in vampire lore is Vlad the Impaler. Well, in the common vampire lore that we know it, right? This movie, even Dracula.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Parts of Twilight. People don't realize, actually, as the culture changed, what we call vampires now, back in the Disney, they were known as revenants. So we're going to be discussing revenants.
Ooh. Another
Leonardo DiCaprio's movie.
We're about to go ye old timey on your asses.
I thought we're always going ye old timey though.
Sometimes I go not as ye old timey.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Ye old timey.
Yeah, you're right.
Wasn't the R word dropped in some of the legends around the Donner Party too? Wasn't there some Revy talk there as well?
I was like, what's the R word? And I realized
it's kind of weird because
I was like, I know a different one, and I hope we're not talking about
the R word dropped at the Donner Party of Revenants. That was actually around that time. Revenants are kind of, because now when people think of revenants, they think of ghost, and like kind of like poltergeisty style spirits, and that's what they thought people were possessed in the Donner Party because some weird shit was happening, as we discussed before. But we're talking about old timey revenants.
I don't know anything about them.
Oh, they're gonna eat your life force and poop it out.
I'm here for that.
I gotta think about a background. I don't know anything about revenants.
It sounds very French Canadian. Am I right there?
No, it's European.
Oh, okay. It's even older than I thought.
Yeah.
All right. So stay tuned next Monday to hear the Campfire Tales on the Revenants.
Wait, hold on a second. You said, I'm saying ye old, and you said French Canadian?
Yeah.
No, ye old's like Middle Ages, bro.
Ye old is like up till Washington Irving. Like it's
but it's more commonly associated with Middle Ages. It's not
ye old is a really broad term.
You know what? Okay.
Well, of all the things we fought about tonight, I'm too exhausted.
Fair enough. All right, you go ahead, go.
So if you're enjoying the podcast, we certainly appreciate you listening. We would ask you to subscribe, rate the show, and as we've mentioned a couple of times, Jamie's wanting more comments from y'all. So throw a little sentence in there about what you think of the podcast, as long as it's good. If it's negative, then we'll just turn this car around and go home. We'll just take our
Well,
long.
Dave, this is the time of aliens.
That's right.
Is that the last thing before our alien overlords come that you want to say is give us native comment?
Put out in the world.
Yeah, why not let us go out on a positive comment?
Wait, is this the modern version of is this what you want to be doing when Jesus comes back? Is that
Maybe maybe a little. Maybe a little. Is this what you want to do when the aliens come?
Oh,
If you want
That's
to
what
learn,
she said.
if you want to learn more about the Wicked Wild and our crew, you can go to our website, thewickedwild.com. Social media options are Twitter at Wicked Wild We Are, or the new Slasher, which is the horror community social media, also at Wicked Wild We Are. Or as we've referenced a couple of times, you can find us on YouTube. The Wicked Wild Podcast is all you got to search. And you can find both our movie reviews and campfire tales with all of our shining faces as we give each other the evil eye and threaten each other silently while we talk. You don't even know. If you're just listening to the podcast, you don't even know the kind of relationships we actually have.
People could see under the frames. They just see my middle fingers.
And then if you have any questions or thoughts or feedback that you want to send directly to me, the podcast email is podcast, podcast, at thewickedwild.com. And as we always say, and what these people didn't do, you got to get out there and get lost because it may be the only place you can find yourself. Have a good night.